Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly Q&A session, and today it's my pleasure to welcome here our coach Chris. So hi Chris, how are you today? Present
Hey,
ready? Ready?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm good. Also, still running the pre-Christmas errands, but yeah, I always find I'm very happy to find time for any Q&A or any call or anything related to our little community. So yes, I think we can start, and we have already got some questions in the YouTube, and yeah, the first question is from TC. Happy holidays! Thanks for providing insight on the previous Q&A. You're welcome. It was with Alina. What can you tell people going through this journey on recovery? It's tough not knowing a timeline or how long the process take.
It is tough, right, Veronica?
Right, absolutely, it's very tough.
I remember when I was struggling with insomnia, I vividly remember, wondering many times, how long can this go on? How long will it go on? I think that's normal. I think everybody that's on this sort of journey finds themselves questioning the recovery process overall, especially how long it can take. And it is hard to not want to have a specific number. But I
Mm,
think it's important to understand that um, we, as difficult as it can be for many of us, it's really important to, try not to have a certain number or ideal as far as how long it should take. Um,
mm,
it just creates a lot of pressure. Um, let's say we think that, you know, we give ourselves 6 months to recover, right? Or a year, by a year, I should be better. Well, it's just going
yeah.
to create more pressure because as the months and weeks start to roll by, we're naturally going to look at the calendar and wonder,
Mm,
how are we compared to where we were 3 months ago? Am I close to reaching that mark? And that's just going to create more pressure. I think it's just important to remind ourselves that patience is really key here, and really trying to savor the present moment. When we find ourselves thinking ahead in the future, as far as how long it's going to take, bring yourself back into the present moment, whatever that might look like for you in the moment.
exactly.
Just try to
Yeah.
really take it, one day at a time. I know I had to take it some days 1 hour at a time, or 1 minute at a time.
Mm.
Does that resonate with you, Veronica?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the part like when you think about the future, just bring yourself into present moment because it gives us such heavy emotional baggage that when we think about, oh, when this will be over, will I ever be okay? And how will I even sleep tonight? How will I feel tomorrow? And when we just ask these questions constantly over and over again and still don't have the answer, we are basically keeping ourselves stuck in this cycle of worrying. Uh, The more we worry, the more worried we are. And that's why we more and more worry. And the more hyperarousal we keep ourselves in. And uh, I'm just thinking. I heard one saying, and it was something. I not won't say it right, but uh, it was like worrying has a big shadow, but they are not as big as the thing they you are worried about. So it's like really the more we are worried, the more heaviness we give to ourselves when we just accept things the way they are, the way they way not when we don't add more and more struggle to it. It just stays at its baseline, and when it stays at its baseline, it's not great, but it's not as bad as the more worried we are about it. I
It's
know
manageable.
I'm
It's
rambling.
manageable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's manageable a little bit more. And of course, our brains loves numbers. So I think that was the reason why with Daniel, right on his website, when people were asking how long my recovery will take, and he wrote it take 2 to 4 months just take in all the education. And and beyond this time period, you have room for improvement. You have room for to implement all the teachings. So take it as 2 to 4 months it may take to really internalize all the teachings, but it can take much longer.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
For me, eventually, um, I think I just got tired of putting myself through that and creating that pressure where, I eventually reached the point where I resigned to the possibility that recovery for me might take an extended amount of time. It could take a year, it could take two
Yeah.
years. I don't know. And when I was able to do that, I just felt this immense relief and
Mm.
reduction of pressure.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, recovery for me came quicker when I
Mhm.
released those sort of expectations, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think it's not easy, but if we can,
Mm.
sort of loosen ourselves a bit and become flexible to the
Mhm.
idea that this might take a little
Mm.
bit longer than we might
Mm.
desire, things can get a lot easier
Yeah.
for many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one last thing I would like to add to this. And when I was also thinking in the terms like how long my recovery would take, I thought like, what if it takes 1 year? But what is 1 year in a lifetime, right? Even if it was 2 years, if we know that beyond these 1 or 2 years or however long it would take, we find finally the peace. So don't set any expectations to yourself, and it will get easier for you guys. Okay, cool, cool. Uh, and we got a few comments already, and one is from Christian. Hello, how prevalent is the paradoxical aspect in general chronic insomnia? I mean, especially when there is an underlying anxiety disorder behind it. So, how normal, I guess, is to experience paradoxical insomnia when we struggle with sleep. So, what do you think, Christian?
I think the sort of insomnia that we talk about here in the sleep coach school, with that component of anxiety tied to it, it's almost always paradoxical.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
there's many paradoxes, you know, within it. Sleep is something that for many people they desperately want, and the more they want it, the more effort they apply to trying to get it, and
Hmm.
the less it comes to them, and it evades them even more. So I think
Hmm.
understanding and just being aware that insomnia is just this one giant paradox, and there's nothing
Hmm.
unusual about the fact that it's a paradox for you and it is for a lot of people. I think that in
Hmm.
and of itself is all that's important, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, from I have experienced like many, many sleepless nights. But thinking back, I, in some way, I had to get some sleep because despite I was like exhausted and mentally devastated the next day, I still functioned to some extent. And it was more of the fear that I was paralyzed by than rather the lack of sleep that led me to really just lay on the couch and pity myself. Oh my goodness, I can't do anything because I didn't sleep last night. Right. So, really challenging ourselves to start to do at least little things the next day, it really helps us to prove, like, okay, it is not as bad as we think. And I remember, like, one of one of the groundbreaking ideas that I got from the sleep coach school is that you sleep no matter what. Sleep is inevitable, and even if you think you didn't sleep, you slept because. And then when you start to read the studies, you learn that there is no way you are not sleeping because your brain takes at least the micro sleeps, at least the tiny bits of sleep that it needs to function the next day. And when I learned this, it gave me the peace of mind, like, okay, I need to give back the trust to my body that it knows what is it doing just to help me and support me. Even in, in that exact moment, I don't understand it. I'm not sure, like, what is going on. But really, in overcoming insomnia is about giving back the trust to our own bodies. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, then there's the paradoxical insomnia that you were speaking of, where
yeah,
and
exactly.
insomniacs are notorious for misperceiving how much sleep they get, but it is virtually impossible to go for a very long time without any sleep at all.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, now we had a question from, is it Iliana? I think, Finken. Hi, coaches. Hi. Thank you for all you do. You're welcome. And I'm currently struggling with stopping medications. I take half a Unisom every night and know this is preventing me from fully letting go. Any advice?
Take
So,
it
what?
slow. Take it slow. There's no need to again put a timeline on recovery and and sort of rush these protective measures that so many of us have had in place or have in place around sleep, like medications and supplements and things like that. It seems like she's already being courageous. She's taking half a tablet. I would imagine that at one point she was probably taking more than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and just being aware that when you reduce a medication or a supplement, or you stop engaging in a certain sleep effort, more than likely there is going to be some just more disruption in your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
We can have this sort of rebound insomnia and or anxiety, and a lot of people will start wondering, well, did I do something wrong? Should I have done that? Maybe I'm going too fast. But I think it's just important to understand that a lot of times it's merely just the brain and our nervous system that's just being hyper vigilant over
Mm-hmm.
such changes, because again, the brain has thought that being awake at night is dangerous for a considerable amount of time. And when you've been
Mm-hmm.
delegating sleep to something that your brain thought was keeping you safe, it's only natural that when you remove that, things are going to probably get a little worse in the beginning, and that's normal. So just being aware of that. And when you do commit to a decision like stopping a medication or reducing a dosage, just try to really commit to it. As tempting as it is to go back and take that dose you were taking previously, because it's been 2 or 3 nights and it's just getting harder, it seems, just try to stick it out as much as you can, and eventually your brain will kind of stop that over monitoring process.
Yeah, that's right. And when we speak about winning of meds, I really like to mention the story of Joseph Pennell. I read it in his book, and he also took pills for a really long time. And when he was eventually winning them off, he literally said he was cutting it to smaller and smaller pieces until he would have to pick up the pill with the tweezers. It was such a tiny bit, and then
Right.
eventually he would have to crush it into the dust, and he would just lick this tiny bit of the dust until he said, like, one day he realized, like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? This literally cannot help me to sleep, right? So he just threw away the spoons he was crushing the pill with, and he said, like, this was the last time he would take the pills. So I wanted to point out that he came, or his brain came to this conclusion naturally. He wasn't forcing it. He allowed the process of weaning off the pills, allowed to take as long as it is needed, right? So, Ileana, don't push yourself. um, there is no rush, really. It doesn't matter whether you wean off in 6 weeks or in 6 months. Take your time, and really, weaning off meds, it could be the really last thing that you do once you are recovered. Okay?
That's absolutely. Yeah, go at a pace that's comfortable for you. For some people, they just have to stop it altogether at cold
Mhm.
turkey. That's just the way for some people.
Yes.
It certainly wasn't for me. I had
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
really ride with my training wheels on for a while until I felt confident in myself to sort of take them off and
Mhm.
and navigate, the sleep world on my own. And that was
Mhm.
okay. That's what I needed. But there's so many different ways that we can approach this. Maybe some people take sleep, or rather sleep medications, only on the weekdays when they have to work. If
Mhm.
that's the case, maybe on the weekends when you don't work, maybe try not taking them.
Mhm. There are many
Yeah,
ways, and it's
right.
always helpful to discuss with your medical provider. So
Absolutely.
to give you the best advice on this. Okay, so we have a question from Person Man. Is there anything practical I can do to improve my early morning awakenings around 3 a.m.? How do you know it's 3 a.m., right?
Right.
And disrupted sleep, or should I accept it? Is this common in recovery? So, was it common for you, Christian?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is insomnia, right?
Right.
Either not being able to initiate sleep or stay asleep. For me, it was both.
Yeah.
I think this person is looking for practical ways of approaching this,
Hmm.
and there certainly can be. We just don't want to sort of move into that territory where we feel like we have to do things in order to either make ourselves sleep or feel less anxious. If we're going to do anything, it's just important that we do these things because we find um, some sort of enjoyment in them, and if we're not enjoying it, at least it's something that we can tolerate. Um, Me personally, my go-to was usually watching Netflix,
Hmm.
watching documentaries. Sometimes I would stay in bed and plug in my headphones and listen to a podcast.
Hmm.
Um, there were nights where I just could not do that for whatever reason. Maybe I was a bit too frustrated or anxious or angry or all of the above. In those instances, I would just really try to implement mindfulness as much as I could. Just being mindful and observant of whatever thoughts, emotions, even physical sensations would arise in those instances. So, I mean, there's so many practical things that you can do. There's meditations resonate for some people. Maybe grabbing a pen and paper and writing down all of your thoughts and worries and sort of having a brain dump.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Being mindful of your environment, maybe just paying attention to the sounds in your bedroom, like your ceiling fan, or being observant of or rather the sensation of your sheets and your pillow, and sort of finding comfort in that. Like, there's so many different things you can do, but again, there's a fine line between doing these things for the sake of trying to stay in the present moment
Hmm.
versus doing these things to try to escape the discomfort somehow, or bringing sleep to us. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, I just would add that, well, I mean, I know you ask like if that you want to do something practical
Right.
to improve your early morning awakenings, but maybe just accepting that you are awake and just allowing yourself to rest, it's could be really, really helpful because with also even resting, we are befriending wakefulness the same way like when we do something enjoyable, right? So we are basically sending the messages to our brain that it's absolutely fine to be awake at night. And I guess I repeat it in every Q&A, but I like this so much that resting opens the gate to hypersleep, and hypersleep opens the gate to the deep sleep. So when we accept each of the stages where we are at, like when we accept that we are resting and that we are not sleeping right now, and that is okay, it's safe, it's there is nothing wrong with it. When we remove the judgment from, oh my goodness, I should be sleeping. This is not okay to not sleep at 3 a.m. This could be really helpful. This can help us to move to the hypersleep stage where we might not feel really comfortable. But what is helpful to know is that we sleep more than we really think. And this, when we again allow it without judgment, then it's again easier to transition to the deeper stages of sleep. So allow anything what is happening at night, just let it unveil as it wants, and it will get easier and easier with time. Person man.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, acceptance
Yes.
the correct answer. Acceptance.
Mhm.
It takes practice, but eventually, when you implement it enough times, it becomes almost second nature. And like you said,
Mhm.
Veronica, eventually that deeper sleep will find its way to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have one comment from Kirsty That was one of the biggest aspects of my journey, knowing I actually slept more than I thought I did, especially the next day. It gave me great comfort. Yes, thank you so much for sharing, Kirsty. And it's incredible just having the information, just having the right education. It's helping us on the journey. How much we, how much relief we can feel when we know that there is nothing wrong with us. We are absolutely healthy, and the fact that we are having insomnia. I know you are not going to like it, but it's a proof of a healthy working nervous system, right? So, okay, we actually have a few thank you notes from Iliana,
You're welcome.
from Person Mans, from Christian, and you're very welcome. And I think we can answer one last question. What do you think, Chris? We
Sure.
have a new question, but I have prepared some which were on the YouTube before, and it was a question from TC. This is a really nice one. Does sleep plateau for some people? Does the brain accept 2 or 3 4 hours of sleep each night as you go on? So, what do you think? Is this some kind of like acceptance for the brain? Like, okay, you are going to sleep only this much and not more, or does it improve with time?
It does improve, and excuse me, it does improve with time, and it's something that happens to a lot of people. I worked with so many clients where they're in a better position, but they're not quite where they want to be yet. For some
Mm-hmm.
people, they've sort of been stuck, sleeping 4 or 5 hours. They're doing a lot better, but there's still some apprehension and anxiety, and underlying fear. I think first of all, it's honor, how far you've come. You are getting 3 or 4 hours now, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to maybe not having any sleep some nights or having very broken and fragmented sleep. It's a testament to this individual's, heart inner work. So, good on them for that. I think what happens for a lot of people is that when things start to get easier, some of that, nervous system hyper arousal starts to come down a bit, but it's not quite where people want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Perhaps they're not feeling like the obvious, like telltale signs that many people feel, like, the racing heart, the mental rumination, like some of the signature, you know, symptoms of hyperarousal. But there
Mm-hmm.
is still some hyperarousal to some degree. A lot of people might just feel like alert. I'm awake right now. I'm not anxious. Why is this still happening? So there's certain
Mm-hmm.
levels to hyperarousal. And there was a great video that, I think our own coach Richard, um,
Mm-hmm.
if anybody hasn't had a chance to see that video, I don't know the name of it, but it speaks of this, sort of silent hyperarousal.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, he does a brilliant job explaining the different levels of hyperarousal. I think that when we start bringing down those levels, sleep starts to improve, but
Mm-hmm.
there is still some hyperarousal. So
Mm-hmm.
all this to say, sleep is not perfect, but it's not where it was before. So consider that you are in a position now where you weren't maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And
Mm-hmm.
as you continue to do this work, um, you know, accepting being awake at night, when you do find yourself awake at night, things will get easier. The needle will continue to move, to your favor. And eventually, as the hyperarousal comes down even more, those 3 or 4 hours might turn into 5, 5.5,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so on.
Right, exactly. And anyway, I'll just add that the timelessness is really helpful, like not counting the hours during the night, not really thinking along the lines, oh, I slept like, I don't know, 6 hours, so I'm going to feel like this, or I slept 2 hours, I'm going to feel like this. The more we let go of any numbers, the easier it gets for us, right? And if you don't mind, Chris, we have Arya here asking us for support. So one last question, and the main anxiety related to not sleep is if it will cause any serious health problems. Can you tell something which will give reassurance? I mean, you must have seen people suffering it and their experiences. So, what are your thoughts on this, Chris?
Yeah, health anxiety is very prevalent.
Mm,
Not just insomnia, but just in with generalized anxiety. You know,
yes.
we see that a lot. It's a common concern, really. You know, there aren't any, you know, concrete studies that really tie, you know, short sleep or lack of sleep to any, you know, major considerable, you know, health implications. Um, you know, causation does not always equal, you know, correlation does not equal causation many of the
Mhm,
times. I mean, there are studies that, you know, show that there is some causality between, you know, let's say, you know, diabetes and short sleep, but who's to say that, you know, somebody wasn't diabetic first and they're suffering from low blood sugar, and because of that they're having multiple awakenings at night, right?
exactly. Yeah.
There's and just knowing that there's so many different variables and factors in life that influence our health. You know,
Mhm,
it's not just sleep. There's diet. You know, are you exercising? Genetics. You know, some
mhm,
people are just more predisposed to having certain like health conditions. But still, even knowing all of that, it's hard for a lot of people to not become sort of fixated on the idea that something might be happening inside of themselves that might be jeopardizing their health because they're not sleeping.
mhm,
You know, I think for many people, if they just find themselves in that position, just again, just trying to be mindful of it, just let whatever thoughts that your nervous system is kind of presenting to you, just let them be there. You know, just know that, you know, your brain, you know, has thought that being awake at night is dangerous, and when we are sort of in this state of apprehension for a long time, our brains will scan for other threats, and one of
mhm,
the most common threats that our brains will scan for is health. You know, how is this affecting my health? So just let it happen. You know, as uncomfortable as it is, let it happen, be aware of the thought, and yeah, just do the best that you can with it. You know, do you have any other advice, Veronica? Something that might have helped you?
I would just advise that, yeah, watch the success stories on our channel. Probably you have
Right.
watched them, and many of them, like, uh, you know, all. I haven't heard. I mean, in this area in this field, like for what 3 years, and I haven't heard like, okay, insomnia caused me this,
Right.
right? I have to say, like, I suffered from insomnia for 8 years, and I don't know about any serious side effects that was caused by me not sleeping, and it was really severe insomnia for all those 8 years. So just take myself as an example. You don't have to be afraid. It's just like Chris explained. There is so much about all those worry thoughts, and you just take them as they are. Of course, always have the medical checks. Talk to your doctor. But when everything physically is absolutely fine with you, just trust it, just believe it, right? Because sometimes we feel like, but what if the doctor just missed something? What if? But see, these are just the worry thoughts, right? So yeah, I think we can wrap up for today, Chris. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much for all your questions. I will be back here with Coach Alina the next week with last Q&A for this year. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye, everyone.